This is Michael Goldwasser from Easy Star Records and the Easy Star All Stars, and you are watching World Music Views. Hello.
What's poppin', Michael?
Everything's safe, man. Can you hear me all right?
Your voice is exactly as I imagined it would sound.
Wow. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Welcome to World Music Views.
Yeah, thank you. What part of Jamaica are you in?
We're in Kingston right now.
Okay.
We are on worldmusicviews.com. And World Music Views started as a move to bring numbers to reggae music. I started the idea as a TV show. We were on TVJ for 5 years from 2018 till we decided to go fully digital. We curate all the numbers for reggae music, Afrobeats, dancehall in the US, UK, Canada, which that has always been a problem for reggae to have some kind of business to it.
Yes.
And of course, we do features like this with special people that we recognize that are doing big things in the music.
Well, thank you.
So before we go any further, just tell us who you are and how you got your present job.
Wow. Okay. Well, my name is Michael Goldwasser, and I'm one of the founders of Easy Star Records, which is a reggae label based in New York, where I am. We started in 1996, and we've been putting out reggae ever since then. And we've expanded. We first started just putting out records by Jamaican artists who were living in New York that we had access to, and I was producing and co-writing with them. And now we work with artists from all over the world, which is really amazing. But our focus has never left Jamaica. Jamaica is there's no reggae without Jamaica, and I think unfortunately, some people kind of even lose sight of that. There are reggae artists in the U.S. or in other parts of the world that don't feel a connection to Jamaica. But I was fortunate. All of us from Easy Star, we grew up in New York City, around so many Jamaicans, and hearing reggae as part of our normal everyday life. So even though I'm not Jamaican, my partners are not Jamaican, reggae was really a part of our upbringing.
I noticed that you also signed, well, tell me if you signed them, Jesse Royal's Grammy nominated album. That was on Easy Star, right?
Yes, it was. We've done his last two albums, and we're working on some new stuff right now, actually, with him.
So you signed them, Jesse signed to Easy Star.
Yeah, I mean, we try to be not a traditional record label, in the sense that traditionally, and in Jamaica and in the US, the record label was known for, pardon my language, but trying to screw the artists out of everything. Oh, we'll give you $10, and then the artist never sees another penny. We really try to not be that way, and to just be everything very, very fair, which I think serves us and the reggae community very well. And we hope that we can be a model for other labels, that if we promise something, we're going to deliver it, and recognizing how important the artists are to the process. So the reason I'm saying all this is that we don't sign artists like, you have to give us your next 3 albums, you have to give us our next 5 albums. We tend to license the album from the artist or from the producer, and then because they like working with us, they come back to us without us having to have them signed per se for several albums.
You have a style that's largely about reimagining old albums, classic albums, into reggae music. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, as I said in the beginning, we started out just working with Jamaican artists and doing original reggae, but based in New York, and it was great. We would sell some records. It would be me and my partners walking around to, taking the subway with a big thing of records to all the different Jamaican record stores around New York City. But we knew we needed to do something bigger if we wanted to help expand not just our business, but expand reggae, right? So one of my partners, Lem Oppenheimer, he was a big fan of the British rock group Pink Floyd, and their most famous album is called Dark Side of the Moon. He had this idea one day, like, what if we did a reggae version of it? And I wasn't so familiar with that album so much, but I listened to it and I made a couple. I'm the only one of the four founders of Easy Star who's actually a musician and a songwriter and a producer. So I made arrangements of a couple of songs. We realized it really could work, So we did this album. We called it Dub Side of the Moon. We involved lots of different artists to sing on it, and it went really, really well. And the Easy Star All Stars, as a band, we wound up touring the world behind this album. A lot of people who were skeptical about it then turned out to actually become really big fans, and that's really one of our goals, is to bring more people into reggae. It's a music that we love, and that some people, for whatever reason, aren't into it or haven't really heard it, or have only heard Bob, or they might listen to it if they're on vacation in the Caribbean, but they don't really give it a chance, like as if it was another legitimate genre of music. So by creating an album where we covered a very famous rock album, it's one of the most famous albums in rock history, we brought in people to become reggae listeners, which was really important to us. And then because that was successful, we continued to find new albums to do. And of course, doing covers. I mean, the reason you found me is because of this article I wrote for Rolling Stone about doing covers. And covers has been a big part of not just reggae or not just Jamaican music history, but music history. Everyone's always taking something they like and redoing it. But no one had really done a full album that we know of. Take an album and then say, we're going to relick the entire album, but from a Jamaican perspective. So we were able to do that successfully, and that's what we've been able to do with Easy Star Records and Easy Star All Stars. I'm producing these. I take an album and I think, like, what would this sound like if it was this artist, these songwriters, but they recorded it in Jamaica? And my favorite era of reggae is generally, say, the mid to late 70s through the early 80s. Like my favorite studio band is Roots Radix and the Revolutionaries from Channel One. So that's how I try to come up with these albums. Is like, retain the essence of the original, but give it a real legitimate reggae vibe. And we work with so many great guest vocalists, people that I grew up listening to and admiring, and now I'm producing them on these albums, which is really a thrill for me. So maybe you're going to get to this, but our latest album is by the British rock star David Bowie, who passed away a few years ago. He had a very famous album called Ziggy Stardust, and we reimagined it as Ziggy Stardub. And the whole thing is licked back as reggae, and there's some ska, some rocksteady, and even some dancehall in there. So that's what we're trying to do, is just bring more people into, open people's minds and open people's ears to reggae, and open their hearts.
Now, the cover thing, it's a thing that has always been a part of reggae music. Whether other artists cover, like Bob Marley started by writing songs for other artists. Eric Clapton sang over I Shot the Sheriff, which sold more than Bob. UB40 did several cover albums that went platinum, multi-platinum. So it's a good idea that has always been part of the reggae experience. Now, what the difference is between now and then was that records used to sell a lot of units. Eric Clapton went platinum, but we're not seeing that in reggae now. What do you think is reggae's selling problem?
Wow. I don't know how much time you have. I mean, look, you obviously are ensconced in the music world in Jamaica, and me being from the outside, but dealing with a lot of Jamaican artists and other people in the Jamaican industry. And I hope no one feels no way about this, me being an outsider critiquing, but I do see a certain lack of unity in the Jamaican music community, or even worse than that, so, competitiveness that is detrimental to the progress of reggae. I feel like everyone's, fighting for something small, when if everyone could unite on some level, they could achieve something big. And I don't quite understand why the Jamaican government hasn't embraced reggae as Jamaica's most important export and really celebrated reggae in a meaningful way. I mean, I know there are some things, and certainly, reggae artists might, get accolades from the government, some title, things like that. And there is something, but I just feel like it could be much, much bigger. If people were working together to do this. Another challenge I see, and it's not just related to Jamaica or reggae, is just people not necessarily knowing the ins and outs of the business, the music business. And I think that has changed a lot more over the last, say, 10 years. But, I know way too many reggae artists who don't understand publishing, might not own their own publishing, don't understand the value of the legal side of things, or of understanding that, like, of course you want to have people on your team who represent you, but I think it's, everyone owes it to themselves to be as educated as possible about the business side. It's the music business. It's not just music. So, and I think reggae also is facing a challenge of being considered like other music by a lot of people. I mean, I'd like to think everyone knows or maybe even likes some reggae, but it's not the normal music for a lot of people outside of Jamaica to listen to. And part of it, there's this, like with dancehall, sometimes there's somewhat of a language barrier, like people don't understand patois and they get somehow put off by hearing, lyrics that they can't understand. Which I think is really kind of silly, because if you love music, you can love music in any language, and music is the universal language. You don't have to understand every word of a song, but some people feel that way. So perhaps had roots reggae maintained prominence after Bob Marley's death, instead of dancehall slowly becoming kind of the main focus of a lot of artists, maybe things would have developed differently. I do not know.
Another thing that I don't know if you could shed some light on is, you said that, artists aren't uniting, etc. But reggae is bigger than Jamaica, right? Yeah. You're doing it. You're not Jamaican. A lot of people doing it all over the world. You're doing it and you're calling it reggae. But a lot of times artists do dancehall, especially, and they don't call it dancehall. Justin Bieber, whenever he does it, they call it tropical pop. The overseas media, they give it a name like airy pop or something like that. And I did an article recently where I highlighted the top 50 dancehall songs. Number one is Justin Bieber's Sorry, which went diamond. They didn't call that dancehall, but in the credits, it's dancehall. Number two is One Dance by Drake. In the credits, it says dancehall as a genre, but that's given to pop, Afrobeat, right? No one says that's dancehall. Number three, Shape of You by Ed Sheeran. In the credits, as in the label, title it as dancehall, but the media doesn't call it dancehall. Unforgettable by French Montana and Sway Lee. These are 4 diamond-selling songs. So whenever dancehall succeeds, it's called something else. Do you think that hurt the genre itself? Instead of, as you say, it's being seen as a other kind of music, it's seen as at the top of the pops, at the top of the charts. Do you think it hurts when they relabel it whenever it hits?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, right, life isn't about what happens. It's not about what happens to you. It's about how you react to it, right? So yes, it stinks that someone, I don't even know who, decided, oh, we're going to call this tropical house, or, a lot of Afro beats really is dancehall, to me. I mean, I know there's some differences, but really there would be no Afro beats without dancehall. So people are labeling it whatever they're going to label it, but it's about what does the reggae community do about that? And if there was some unity, maybe it's too late, but when Justin Bieber came out with that tune, however many years ago that was, if there was unity and every person in the Jamaican music industry made some kind of statement about it and saying, look, this is dancehall music. Instead of and putting aside any differences, if so and so doesn't like so and so, just say we got to unite and tell the world this is dancehall music. And maybe this has happened. I don't know. Outreach to the artists. Like, hey, Justin or Justin's manager.
Sean Paul did. Sean Paul was one of them that called out Drake and Justin,
right?
That they're not labeling it dancehall, and no one even paid attention to him. He just said it like in the open air, but he was like, as he said, he didn't get a lot of support from fellow acts to say, hey, this is what's happening.
Yeah. And it's interesting to me as well in the sense that a lot of music I hear coming out of Jamaica has moved so far even beyond, whatever standard dance hall, like it's musically, it owes much more of a debt to what's going on in the US in terms of hip hop and R&B, which is so influenced by hip hop here in the US as well. Which is fine. I think artists and producers should be making whatever music they want, but maybe part of the reason for moving forward like that, I think historically, not just in Jamaica, but in all forms of music that were started by, say, descendants of slaves in the Western Hemisphere, it's like it's taken from them by the colonial powers or by big business or whatever area you're in. And then sometimes the reaction might just be, okay, you know what, fine. You take that, we're going to move on to the next thing, and always thinking about the future. And I'm going off on a bit of a socio-political tangent there, but I think I could be correct.
Now, you have a good perspective. Now, let's talk some business, right? You started your label in 96. So you've built up an extensive catalog of music. And you're doing something unique, which means there's value to it. With everybody that's selling their catalog recently, a lot of reggae acts secretly sold their catalogs. They told me some of the biggest told me they secretly sold their catalog. They haven't announced it, but okay. Overseas, Justin Bieber sold his catalog. John Legend, bunch of people selling their catalog. Bruce Springsteen. Are you going to sell your catalog, and how much does it cost?
I don't know, man. Make me an offer I can't refuse, Yeah, we don't really think about that so much. I think the whole idea of selling catalogs, it's great for artists, for creators or owners of intellectual property to be able to make as much money as they can off of that. I think another challenge in the reggae world is that historically there was a lack of clarity on who really owned intellectual property of a song. Like you could find so many records that have different credits on them for who the songwriters are, or the producer might say, well, that's my record, but the artist would be like, well, I never even got paid, so it should be my record. Things like that. And it's very complicated. And of course that happens probably all over the world and certainly in the US industry as well. But I find that a lot, like in the past, say we've tried to license tracks for some compilation of rare stuff and just tracking down the ownership is so difficult sometimes. And I'm not sure why, like if I were in the Jamaican government, which I never will be, I would say, you know what, we need to have an organized way to document everything, make sure that it's right and tight so that our most important export, besides, just the quality of Jamaican people, but the export of reggae music or Jamaican music, reggae, dancehall, whatever it's going to be, has the biggest chance of success. So I don't know who's listening, who's in the government, but start a commission and make this happen, like organize all the data so that, and find out who really owns everything so that it can be fully exploited, not in a negative way, like, oh, the colonialists are exploiting the native people, but I'm saying exploited such as so that Jamaicans can make as much money as possible from the greatest export.
You grew up in Tel Aviv, right? what was
No,
that?
no, no. I didn't. I actually do spend a lot of time in Israel, but I grew up in New York City, pretty much.
So you grew up in a Jewish background.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm Jewish through and through, and that's actually one of the reasons why I gravitated towards reggae.
So
Uh,
tell me about that connection between your Jewish community and how it connects to reggae.
well, when I was a youth, I would hear reggae. Um, And at one point, I realized that some of the like a lot of lyrics from Bob or Dennis Brown, who's my favorite singer, um, they were English translations of Hebrew scripture. And I didn't realize at the time because I didn't know about Rastafari why there was that connection. But I'll try to be brief. I mean, maybe many of your listeners and viewers do know this stuff already, but um, the Jamaica, as you know, has I think the highest per capita number of churches of any country in the world. And many of the churches, from what I know, and feel free to correct me, of course, were of denominations. Say we're talking like back in the early part of the 20th century, where they focused on stories from the Hebrew Bible, from the Jewish Bible, talking about an exodus from slavery, a return to Zion, and the idea of redemption, and being in exile by the rivers of Babylon. We lay down and wept. And the founders of Rastafari came from this church background, these kind of Christian denominations. And when they developed Rastafari, they took a lot of these ideas as part of Rastafari, but then, of course, including the divinity of Haile Selassie, which also has Jewish roots, because the reason they found Haile Selassie to be the Messiah was because he was from the Solomonic line, according to Ethiopian tradition, and therefore, many traditions. And the Jewish Messiah is supposed to be a descendant of King David of Israel, and Solomon was David's son. So to them, it made sense that Haile Selassie could be the Messiah, or God even. So I'm hearing these songs, Bob Marley singing these songs, where I know in Hebrew, it's like, well, that's the exact same thing as I know growing up. It just really made me understand the connection between two seemingly different people, two different peoples, and the whole idea, the iconography of the Lion of Judah, that Rastas use what we call the Magen David, the Jewish star, as one of their symbols. It's just very strong connection. So it really spoke to me as a Jewish person who also loved reggae.
So that is that star what Easy Star is?
No, we, honestly, we called it Easy Star because we, we were very devoted to Jamaican music and culture, and we understood that being non-Jamaicans, although one of my partners is his father's from St. Kitts, so he has Caribbean roots. We understood that we wanted all the Jamaican people that we're working with, or that might hear about us, to understand that we care about Jamaica. And we knew, just from being around Jamaicans, hearing people say Easy Star, and then there was even a song by this hip hop group called Poor Righteous Teachers in the early 90s that was called Easy Star. And we're just like, you know what, that seems like it could be a good name to tell people that we know what time it is, that we're not just some non-Jamaicans trying to barge in the door and make something happen. Like we're trying to show respect for Jamaica.
Wow, that's nice. Easy Star. It's like Easy Star, easy.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that. When you look at reggae now and the artists that are around, the Proteges, Chronics, Jesse, which you signed, are you seeing a future for reggae in these artists, and are you seeing any newer artists that are promising?
Oh, sure, of course. I mean, look, there's no lack of interesting and great artists in Jamaica. Um, and I was very encouraged by whatever you want to call the movement, the new roots or whatever, when Chronix and Protege came on the scene, and Jesse, of course. Um, it seemingly got people interested in reggae in a way that they hadn't been in a while, which is really amazing. There are a lot of great new artists, two of which we work with at Easy Star that I really love. You may be familiar with already. Mortimer. We put out an EP by him a few years ago, and we're working on a full length album that's going to come out later this year. And Samurai I, who we've put out a single with. We actually have another single dropping. I don't know when this is going to air, but on Friday, whatever that date is.
This will air by tomorrow.
Okay, great.
By Friday. So let's not date it. This will air.
Right. Okay, so check for Samurai I's new single called Crown, and then we have a full album with him coming out. And both of them also appear on our latest Easy Star All Stars album, Ziggy Stardub, that I mentioned before. And the reason I'm so encouraged by Mortimer and Samurai I and artists like them is because to me they harken back to the days when the best reggae artists weren't just great reggae artists, they were great artists, like the really talented vocalists who were also saying interesting and meaningful things. And both Mortimer and Samurai do that, and I give thanks for that, because that's the stuff I want to hear, even if I'm not involved in it. And I think that they have the strength vocally and the music. They're both produced by Winta James, who's an amazing producer, who I'm sure many of your listeners know his stuff. It's going to cross boundaries. Like I really do feel that anyone hearing their new albums are going to get it. Whether you're a reggae fan or not, I think people are really going to be feeling it. So I feel very encouraged that artists, that them in specific, and then artists like them are coming across now and making crucial music.
Who are your top 5 favorite artists of all time? Doesn't have to be reggae. This is World Music Views, so we are all encompassing.
Man, that's really hard. I love music.
I know.
Favorite artist of all time. I mean, I'm gonna say Thelonious Monk, the jazz pianist and composer. Probably my favorite artist overall. I love Stevie Wonder. Stevie Wonder all day. Donny Hathaway, another artist that I really, really, really love. I really love Still Pulse. I got to limit to 5.
Yeah, 5.
Oh no, I only have 1 left. Oh man. Okay. Well, I'm gonna say Shaka Khan.
Ah, that's nice. That's nice. Give me the others. Just for razzle dazzle. Give me the others.
Others? Oh well, I mean, I love Oswald and I love Third World. Like Third World, Oswald, and Still Pulse, to me, they're like the holy trinity of reggae bands to me.
You did put Third World as number 1, which I agree with you, by the way, which is why I did the article.
Yeah.
Cover the fact that you put them at number 1. What was that thought process in putting Third World as the number 1 cover of all time?
Well, making that list was actually very challenging. 25, my favorite covers, I could easily name, hundreds of covers that I think are great, so that was really tough. But even from the second that the editors asked me to write that, I thought, you know what, now that we found love, it's got to be the greatest cover of all time, because I didn't even think, I mean, I guess at some point, of course, I knew it was a cover, but to me, that was just.
By the way, I didn't know before yesterday that it was a cover.
Wow. Okay.
And I know Third World, meaning I've interviewed them side by side. I don't know if you read the article where I did interview Cat Core. Ibo Cooper taught at the school that I went to.
Wow.
So I did not know it was a cover.
Yeah, so that's the thing. It's so amazing. Their version is so incredible and so Third World. Like you would never guess necessarily that it wasn't their tune, right? So, it's a tune that if you put that on and at a party or a dance or people are around, if they're not dancing to that, then they have no soul. You know, I mean, that is such a jam for dancing to. Everything about it is amazing. You know, so to me that was an obvious number one. And also, I do want to spotlight Third World. I know they didn't make my random 5 favorite artists, but they really are. You know, I mean, they, just like I was saying, how part of Easy Star's mission is to break down barriers between genres and get other people to listen to reggae music, and to get people who like reggae to listen to other music. Third World was mixing genres, you know, for decades, and in a meaningful way. You know, like you know, all of Third World's albums from the '70s and '80s. I mean, it's just great stuff. Um, and not too many other artists could successfully do that. And the fact that Stevie Wonder picked them to produce and write for says a lot. You know, Stevie could have worked with any artist in Jamaica, and he chose Third World. You know, so, and since I love Stevie so much, that was a, you know, that says a lot. But yeah, I think you know, I've gotten to know some of the guys in Third World personally. I worked with Bunny Ruggs before he passed away, and spent some time with Ebo as well. And yeah, this just amazing people making amazing music. So big up Third World.
I noticed you're very meticulous with your branding. Your website is dope, by the way.
I don't have anything to do with the website.
Your image and likeness is projected right. How important you think it is for artists to focus on their branding and that itself as an IP?
Yeah, I think it's important for artists to focus on branding, but even greater than that, I think artists need to focus on getting a good team around them so that the artist doesn't have to think about the branding so much. It's their manager, their social media person, their team. And of course, it's not easy to build a team necessarily. But if you have friends who have an inclination towards business or other aspects of what has to be done, and they're good people and they want to help you, then that's a good place to start, you know. But yes, if you don't have a team, then yes, an artist has to be aware of their branding. But I would hate for that to take away from the creativity and spending time creating amazing songs and music.
Nice. What are you working on now?
I'm working on a really cool album for an artist based in Florida. She calls herself Sailor Jane, and it is primarily reggae versions of Sade songs. And most of the musicians on it are from Jamaica, guys who've played with Protege and Chronix, really good group of musicians. And since I love reggae and I love R&B, it was just really cool to do something that I could combine that stuff. And then I'm in talks to produce for some other people, and I'm always writing. You know, if I could just sit down and only write music every day and not have to think of anything else, that's what I would do. You know, I love to write. So you know, maybe I actually did write a song for Third World many years ago, and Bunny Ruggs like, man, I love the song. We're gonna record it, and then it never got recorded. But who knows? Maybe I'll write something for the next album.
Nice, man. This was so good. Thank you so much, brethren. This is World Music Views.
All right.
Yeah.